Here is the layers that the history created in India that I would like to present. There is already a caste system existing in India for thousands of years before India. And then this is the map in 1700s when the Mughals were ruling in India. So nearly about more than 200 years of Mughal rule. To make the story short, when the Mughals are ruling, that created a Hindu-Muslim animosity here. These were well divided because of what the Mughals were doing in India. So if you practice something for 200 years, that is nearly about 4 or 5 generations, and it becomes part of your culture. Generations grew up with this animosity, and it becomes part of the culture. Then comes the British rule. This is very important to see. When the Mughals ruled India, the Northeast India was not on the Indian map, and Afghanistan was on the Indian map. When you see the southern part, this was not on Indian map. This explains the different mindset in northern India generally and in the southern part of India, southmost part of India, how people relate to Muslims. And then comes the British era. There is 200 years of British rule, and the map is changed. Afghanistan left out, Burma comes in. Northeast India and Burma comes in. So during this time, it creates another mindset in India and a whole different mindset. There is an Hindu-Muslim enmity. And then slowly, when Muslims and Hindus start saying we are friends because now they have a common enemy to deal with. This is how I put it in short. Mughal era, the invasion, conversion, and the food practices was one of the main reasons for the present day Hindu Muslim mindset in India. And then the British era, the invasion, conversion, and the food that caused and layer over already existing mindset. And then if you look at the Christian community, the theological input the Indian Christian community were receiving, that created another mindset over the existing mindset. For example, if we go into any theological seminary, if at all there are any books available on how to reach Muslims, what to do with Muslims, most of the writings, books are developed by the Western community who worked in the Arab world. And the Arab world was a very different world. And these two are two opposite cultures, and they had a hard time seeing face to face. In those days, it was even worse. So there is a whole theology even developed during that time set. And that theology is not helping the Indian community with already an existing mindset here. So when they learn that theology, these people think that, okay, let's stay away from Muslims. Indian Christians are from Hindu background. So knowingly or unknowingly, we carry the same mindset whilst we were growing up as Hindus in these eras. So we bring in the same mindset into the church also. And then our education also adds more fuel to an existing fire. Okay, with that layer, there is one more layer adding here. This is the cultural map of India, cultural regions of India. If you can see closely, South India is Dravidian community, and the eastern part of India is generally tribal. And then this western part is called the Maratha region. And this is the Aryan region, the Hindu community. And then the hill tribes. I don't know why they call it as mixed culture region, Northeast India. It is, but it has its own cultural setup. If you look at these cultural regions, each culture responds to anything new that comes into their region. And for example, Maratha region is the toughest region in India. Even if you look at when they fight against Mughals or when they fight against British, these were the last standing kings during that time. So even now, that reflects in gospel. Gospel is very difficult in this part of the country. These parts were the first to open for the gospel, and then these were even more open. And what normally happens is we take the lessons learned out of particularly this region and we try to copy that in all these regions. That's another aspect because we claim it happened in India. It happened in India in this part, so it can happen anywhere in India. But we need to remember before Mughals came, India was not one country. There is no country called India. It was kingdoms, several kingdoms. Each little thing was a kingdom here. So this is another layer. And with that layer, over this layer, there is this caste system. All these things are undergirded by caste system, which is very difficult for most of the expat workers who are working in India to see the realities of the caste system. So because of that background, the present day Christian community is actually trying to break the caste system. It's not working. And they're not paying attention to this caste system. Even when the movements are reported, it might look like there is something happening in a particular community here in this part. And we always wonder why it is not working here. Because it's the same community with the same name. Because in all these regions, you see that are Muslims. In all these ranges, you will see Muslims, and they have their own history and they have their own caste system. So all these layers are playing an important role. We all are aware of this language maps, and this is the part where the Hindi is generally spoken. And here is another map that I found. The second most commonly spoken native languages even complicates more of what we want to do. This is one of the things that I'm even struggling in training the churches. Everywhere I go, I realize that I have to first work on translating my teaching material. I just could not take just Hindi to all the parts of North India. I could not just take Tamil to all parts of South India. Recently, I'm working in this state, only in Christian community. I can speak the language of this part of the state. And then when I had a training program here, I had no idea what they were saying to me when they were responding to my teaching. The same language. This is a layer, and every part has its own Muslim community. So Muslims also fit in the same layers of cultures, languages, and caste system. So to summarize, there's an historical factor, there is an existing caste factor, and then there is language factors. So like these language and culture factors, all these three overlap with each other to really understand how things can work overall India. So one of the prominent thing is folk Islam, and they also do this peer worship and all those things. The Shia Muslims and the folk Islam bring in a lot of the spiritual aspects to it. Because one of the fears Christians have is if you relate to Muslim, they're going to do a black magic on you. That's the biggest fear Christians have because they also come from a background where in India some certain things are practiced and they fear those kind of animistic ideas and black magic and all those things. So even though Christians become believers, they do have that fear. And when I encourage people to go eat in a Muslim house because the food plays an important role, the first question they ask is what if a Muslim says the kalma? Because Christians don't understand the meaning behind kalma. And if a Muslim says the kalma, they're so afraid that Muslims have pronounced a curse on them. So that's the biggest fear. And we needed to work with a lot of teaching and helping people to see what it is, like what happens when we don't understand the language and how we respond to that, or how we interpret that when we don't understand, because we don't understand what they say. So that is an important factor to deal with. Yes. There's an historical factor that because Muslims ruled us and they oppressed us and they took everything from us. That's one aspect. And then the religious aspect. The religious aspect is also bundled with food. When two people cannot sit together and eat, nothing is going to happen there. The biggest obstacle that Christians have to overcome is the food issue. And the food issue brings in all these spiritual aspects to it. because Muslims, when they do halal, like halal is the way of they can't meat. But most Hindus think that, oh, they do something, then they can't meat. How can I eat that? Will I be affected spiritually by that? So that's the biggest fear. So both this historical and the spiritual here is a conflict is a big thing. Yes. That takes me to a real story. I was working with a group of people in the eastern part of UP. It was in a hospital. So there is a group of young girls go and do a lot of medical work out in the villages. And almost all the villages are very divided, Muslim area and non-Muslim area. Every 2 months I go there and I've been teaching them. It's been 3 or 4 times I've already been there. Things weren't moving anywhere. So one day I wanted to go along with this medical team into a village. So we were all in this Jeep, big Jeep, carrying like 10, 11 people. And the driver was driving. I was in the front seat, and they went into this village. And the Jeep took a turn towards the non Muslim part of the village. That was a big tree. There was a shade under the tree. So they wanted to do the medical work under that tree. On the opposite side, I saw a really nice big house, and they had this beautiful space out there just in front of their house. And I told the driver to take the Jeep right to that place. All the girls in one voice, they said, that's a Muslim house. And I said, that's why I am asking you to go there. They were so scared. No, I'm in charge here. So they were not able to say anything against me. So the driver took the Jeep right to that house. The door was closed from inside. So I told one of the girls, can you go and get some water from that house? All these girls reached out to the water bottles they have in the car. I said, no, I want cold water from that particular house. Can someone go and get some water for me, please? So eventually they could not refuse me. So one girl stepped out she was so hesitant. She went and knocked the door. I don't think she even heard her own knocking. Like she was so frightened. And eventually she knocked the door. And this elderly man walked out. And the moment he looked at them, he recognized them before even she could say anything. But she said, our sir wants some water to drink. So this man received the girl and he brought water. As I got out of the car and started talking to him, the man said, yeah, you come every week, every month here, do the program, but you don't come to our house. You just do it everything under the tree and go away from there. I was hoping that you would come to do it in our house because it turned out to be he's the head of the village and the program should have been done under his supervision. And so I told him, I'm sorry, from now on, they will come to your place. So by the time he said, I'm going to arrange lunch for the whole group. And the girl said, no, we brought our own lunch. So I literally instructed the girls, don't open your lunch box. They're going to eat here. And the man asked us, what do you want to make? So he said, please, chicken, please. So he made chicken, curry, rice, and all those things. And during the lunch, he called the whole village. He called every single woman in that village to his door. And the medical work was happening so smoothly. And then the lunch was being served. And as we were eating the lunch, I watched these girls not touching the meat. They put the meat aside and they were just eating only the rice or anything. So I slowly asked one of the girls, don't you eat meat? She said, no, we don't eat beef. And I said, just jokingly, okay, this beef is made like chicken, so you can eat it. They were like, no, we never ate beef in our lives. So I said, yeah, this is a nice, just try it and see how this beef tastes. It was actually chicken meat. And then I had to tell them, look carefully, look closely. This is not beef, this is chicken. You guys have to look at it. And then finally, one day, one started realizing, yeah, this is chicken. So they slowly started eating the food. Eventually, everyone we had our meal. And I think they had one of the best programs in their time there. And we were driving back and no one spoke a word. It was so quiet. And then evening, we came for a classroom session again. And then all that I asked them was, how was your day today? What was your best experience? And everyone was like coming up with the stories of what they experienced and all those things. I think they were able to do a good job. The sad part of the story is when the chief medical officer was changed, there was a new chief medical doctor came who was a believer. And he said, I went there to my next turn of training, and then all that he said was, Benjamin, Muslims is a waste of time. We don't waste our time among Muslims, so we don't need that training. So I said, go back. This is generally, I'm seeing place after place. The food is, and once when people overcome that food factor, people know what to do.